And don't cry.
Thank you.
Your folks might
Give it up for Dan Montgomery. Thank you so much. Well, good morning, everyone. If you can just indulge me for a second, because I had other plans for my life. Not that I'm not satisfied with where I am, but I thought my life would take on a different journey. And I just always wanted to do something, if you all would just allow me to do this today. Microphone one. Thank you. Thank you.
Hey, now,
I'll never be able to have the dream of being able to cut someone's mic off. Thank you to IFT President Daniel Montgomery, to our Executive Vice President Stacey Davis Gates, the entire IFT board. Cindy, thank you for always representing the South Side of Illinois the right way. And really for all of you who are here today. You know, as educators and public employees, everyone in this room knows just how important you are to the lives in which you service every single day. It's our young people, it's our struggling, working poor families who rely upon public accommodations to improve their lives. And it's every day that educators and school professionals and public employees, you show up in places that people rely on. You inspire people, you motivate people, you see people. At a time in which there is an intentional attack to undermine and to disrupt what is very sacred to all of us, which is our collective humanity, you are protecting just that. At a time in which there's a deliberate intent to whitewash the true history of not just this institution, but our experiment to unite our states around a common cause to ensure that a democracy works for everyone, you still provide hope and inspiration to so many people. The reason why our democracy stands today is because of this institution and public employees across this country who understand their collective assignment to this democracy. Thank you for that. Right now, the important work that's being done with the direct attack from the federal government, it is this generation's turn to secure the hopes and dreams that our ancestors fought for, but not just to simply secure it in the form in which it has been, but to revolutionize it and to transform it into what it can be. We see a president and a federal government that is cutting vital funding from not just the education system, but as a social studies teacher, the 5 demands that descendants of slaves fought for: education, housing, transportation, healthcare, and good paying jobs. That means that programs like supporting Black and brown students, public education, special education, and all of the basic amenities that are desperately needed in order to secure the hopes and dreams of those who are struggling to make the ends meet. Those are the very things and institutions that are under siege. In Chicago, we do know that there's been an expiration of the ESSER funds, but we know that there's been a decline in resources for our public institutions for a very long time. But the Trump administration has made it his personal vendetta to go after everything that speaks to Black liberation, because he understands that through the lens of Black liberation, we all benefit. But it's not enough for the greatest upward transfer of wealth to be placed in the hands of the ultra-rich more than any other time in the history of the world. This means that money that should be going to our public institutions are going to Border Patrol and billionaires. In addition to cutting and withholding funding from our public institutions, this administration is intentionally instilling fear and stoking hatred in our cities across America through very vicious, intimidating tactics. We have ICE agents harassing residents, shooting pepper balls at faith leaders, conducting raids in the middle of the night and detaining journalists and elected officials. Authoritarianism is already here. And people are afraid. They're afraid to go into their own neighborhoods and buy food, to access medicine, vital supplies for themselves and their families. And I know that these actions are having a direct impact on the people that you service every single day. Students are not only facing other issues like a lack of stable housing and food insecurity, but poverty is still very much one of the most evils that still exist today. And Dr. King described it as not only an evil, but one that is, quite frankly, unnecessary. And now many of our students are missing school, and workers are afraid to show up because of the militarized, personal military force that Donald Trump has funded, which is ICE. You know, there are only two other entities that have a greater budget than ICE. That's the United States military and China's military. This is directly affecting the mental health and the well-being and the ability for our young people and our families to be able to focus on schoolwork, to focus on life activities, to dream beyond the measures that have been placed around them. But it's you as teachers, as public employees, that are not only dealing with these struggles, not only facing these incredible challenges, but you are also working to support students and families while also doing the job. This is what encourages me most about public workers, is that you see your job as not just an assignment, but you see it as a responsibility, as an opportunity to bring people together, to demonstrate, I believe, one of the most radical acts that can ever be displayed on the planet, and that's love. It's these actions that have allowed families to be able to find a little bit of comfort even though they are scared. Though they are attempting to weaken us all and destabilize our communities, not just here in Chicago, but throughout Illinois, you all have stood firm. And so here's the part that I'm most encouraged by, is that we will not stand down, we will not cower, we will not bend, we will not break, but we will fight back. By showing up and standing together, we're showing that we will not be intimidated by these tactics and that we will come out stronger on the other side. This is why my administration is working so hard to fight against this tyranny and this federal administration. We have put forth executive orders and initiatives to keep the most vulnerable residents safe. And through our Know Your Rights and our Protect Chicago campaigns, we put forth information helping residents to become more knowledgeable of their rights and, more importantly, to build support systems. When Tom Homan came to Chicago a few months ago, back in the early part of the year, his biggest critique of Chicago wasn't traffic. His biggest critique of Chicago wasn't the fact that we were a welcoming city. His biggest critique of Chicago was that we were too knowledgeable and too educated. Because that is really what intimidates insecure, weak-minded, petulant individuals. Their insecurity, however, turns to rage. And that's why we have to put forth the strong executive actions and collective actions to ensure that we are protecting people to the fullness. And that's why I put forth executive orders to prevent immigration agents from staging on city-owned property, protecting the rights of protesters, and particularly those who are targeting those who are expressing what is fundamental about our democracy, and that's the ability to petition this government. Now, just a couple of more final notes. When it comes to our schools and our public institutions, it's important that we embrace our collective responsibility to build a society that embraces our collective strength. As a matter of note, schools and our public institutions have to dare to build a social order that ensures that we stand up in times like these, that we use our institutions, as Dan indicated, as organizing spaces to build the collective power to ensure that our democracy can work for all. We have to ensure that we stand up and understand our responsibility one to another. And even when the federal government leans in harder to disrupt the very ideas that our ancestors fought for, it's now more than ever more important to actually stand in our righteous call to fully fund our institutions. I am so sick and tired of weak Democrats who refuse to stand up in the face of pressure.
They're all sick and tired too.
You either stand up for working people or sit down and get out of the way. And if you don't get out of the way, we'll run someone to put in your place to stand up to the billionaires. I'm not finished. Sit down. Sit down. Hold on, I ain't even got to the good part yet. It's just... Here's the good part. After Donald Trump went after our Black Student Success Program, after he went after our immigrant students, he's gone after our LGBTQ plus students. It's why just a couple of days ago, I announced for our public institutions, for our schools, our parks, our libraries, every public institution that our people fought for to ensure that we have a right to experience the vibrancy of this democracy. I just released the largest TIF surplus in the history of America with $1 billion to go towards our public accommodations. Because that's what leadership does in the face of tyranny. We don't break, we double down on our principles. And if they take it back, I'll add more to it. Sit down. I got more. Sit down. Now, don't y'all start nothing up in here. I feel a chant in my spirit. Whose democracy? All right, that's enough here. That's enough. But it's these institutions that carry the hope for tomorrow. These funds will ensure that we are protecting our young people from Trump administration's goal to dismantle our public institutions. We are ensuring that we are protecting special education teachers and restoring funding for our Black Student Success Plan, ensuring that our lowest paid workers can actually get their pensions. It is about time that we stop making pensions a problem. Every time we secure the right for a person to be able to retire, we are protecting our economy and our democracy. And since I'm on a roll here of all the things that I'm just tired of, aren't you sick and tired of corporate interests trying to find sympathy at a time in which poverty is higher than it's ever been? In 1948, you all, the wage difference between a corporate leader and a worker was 12 times the amount of an everyday worker. Now a corporate leader makes 212 times more than the average worker. And here's the thing. Because we have put forth a bold agenda to invest in working people, they want us to feel sorry for them at a time in which Donald Trump has made them richer than they have ever been in the history of America, and that includes slavery. So that's why we are also clear. Let me send this message to my partners at the state of Illinois. I've done my part. The state of Illinois needs to come up off of itself and release the $1.6 billion for Chicago and the $3 billion that they owe to the state of Illinois to finally fully fund our education system. You either support public education or you do not. I am tired of lip service when it comes to the education of working people. You will stand for righteousness and stand for public education or get the hell out of the way. If you believe in a millionaire's tax, then pass it. If you believe we have to cut the corporate interest loopholes, then fix it. The last time I'm gonna tell y'all to sit down here, I got 2 more pages, that's it. Listen, you all, we are fighting for the common good. And listen, I know it's an uphill battle, and I know that many are weary, but I'm reminded by my faith that we are not allowed to be weary in our well-doing. When you are standing up for righteousness, even if you get tired, don't get discouraged because we're doing the right thing. And there are the actions of this president and this federal government has certainly made this battle harder than it has ever been. But that's why I'm inspired by this year's convention, where it says that we inspire, we fight, and we transform. That's the action of today. And so I'm calling upon every single person in this room, wherever you live, whatever corner of the state that you call home, this is a moment where working class people get to redefine what our democracy looks like. Because let's just make this very clear. Though he has placed a great deal of damage on this democracy, let's not act like it was perfect. Let's not act like it was Democrats that led the charge to privatize our public institutions. We had Democrats taking the lines of the extreme right in this country for too long, but thank God for institutions like the IFT who recognize your assignment in this moment. If we're going to build a new social order for every single child and family across this state, it requires us to dig in a little bit deeper, to see ourselves through this collective struggle. Once upon a time, ancestors looked across fields and looked across oceans, and they saw a better day. I see the dawning of a new day, not just in Illinois, but this country. And is it about time that people recognize that the city that said, yes, we can, the city that said, keep hope alive, that city that birthed someone like Karen Lewis, the city that allowed for us to transform our public education system as we know it, this is a city that will lead this country to a better future. And I'm counting on every single worker, not just in this room, but workers that you are connected with across this country. Build power, connect to one another, ensure that our humanity comes to life today, ensure that our public accommodations can be secure. Let's make sure that whether our parks, our libraries, our schools, all of our public institutions, our transportation system has the full resources that it needs. And guess what, you all? We have a pathway forward. If descendants of slaves could lead the greatest general strike in the history of this country, it is about time that workers today lead that same cause. And if we have to put down our work to make sure that our democracy stands, then that is a worthwhile fight. God bless you, IFT. God bless you all. God bless the United States of America.
Just move on up.
Thank you.
Toward your destination.